Okay, big round of applause for Greg Mowbray.
So I saw Peter Fitzsimons speak at a conference. Everyone know Peter Fitzsimons writes for the, it's not called Fairfax anymore, ex-Wallaby, I think it's called 9 newspapers or something now. But he's a prolific author and a great author. He's written about history and everything. And I saw him speak at a conference, and he had his latest book on stage, and he actually said, "I absolutely do not care if you don't read my book. I really, really, really don't care if you don't read my book. I just want you to buy it." So I'm very happy to sell some copies of the book if you want to. I know this sounds a little bit like gratuitous self-promotion, but it's actually what I find is most of my clients have copies of my books, and that's because they come to my programs and things. But I really love it when I walk around an office of a client and I see copies in the lunchroom and copies on people's desks, and it's a bit dog-eared, because what that says to me is that people are actually using what's in the book. It's a really easy read. You can probably give us a bit of an overview to the book, given that you've already helped yourself to one, Matt. But look, it's got big writing, it's got pictures in there, it's not heavy going. As the front page says, it's a simple, practical guide to effective leadership, and I hope you can get something from it. What do you reckon I mean when there's the screen over there. What do you... Houston, we have a problem. This video editor is going to have a very busy job, I can tell you. What do you reckon I mean by some of us choose likership over leadership? Anyone guilty of that? Some of you? What do we mean? Who likes to be liked? I think everyone does. So on the one hand, we want people to like us, but when we're leaders, on the other hand, sometimes we have to make decisions, sometimes we have to have conversations and do things that cause people not to like us. So now we've got this uneasy tension. Does anyone ever feel that? So one of the challenges that happens with leadership is that sometimes we put off stuff that we know we need to do because it makes us feel awkward or uncomfortable, and people may not like us, but we know we've got to do it. And this topic is about having difficult conversations. Why might a conversation be difficult? So it might be a difficult conversation because someone's going to get a surprise or a shock. Why else might a conversation be difficult? So there might be some emotion involved. Okay, what kinds of emotions might someone display if they were subject to a difficult conversation? Yeah, so anger, sadness, maybe anxiety, maybe aggression, all of these things. So can you guys see that putting off a difficult conversation is actually counterproductive to leadership? But it's something that we have to do, which is why I put it on my little list of 4 things to talk to you guys about. This session is called planning and having difficult conversations. And I've got inside your handout there, I've got the steps that I'm going to talk to, but I'm going to give you a little bit of context first. There's my leadership development model: vision, authenticity, action, responsibility, and inspiration. There are the 21 road rules for leadership. And under authenticity, if you want to be an authentic leader, you have to have difficult conversations without delay. Does that make sense? If we're going to be genuine and authentic to our people, genuine and authentic to the person, that for whatever reason, we have to have that difficult conversation with, but also genuine and authentic to the rest of the team, we have to find a way to have difficult conversations. So I've got a proven method, and what I say by that, what I say that is that I developed this methodology years ago. I've shared it with thousands of people, and time again, people come to me and say, I'm still using it and it works. It's like any skill. The more you do it, the better you get at it. The better you get at it, the more you do it. So this could be a pain point or a pressure point for you in terms of your leadership. It's really, really important. It's about authenticity. It's about being who you say you are. You've already told me what the opposite of authentic was. Are you the real deal, or are you a cheap fake? Because people are watching and listening and judging you on what you say and what you don't say, on what you do and what you don't do. People buy into the leader before they buy into the vision. So I've talked a lot about having a vision and how important it is. But if they don't believe you, there's no way that in the world they're going to believe the vision, and they simply won't follow you if they don't trust you. Strong leaders, I tell almost everyone I work with this, and not everyone wants to hear it, but strong leaders do things every day they don't want to do. Weak leaders put things off, cut corners, and let things get worse. So we've got to be courageous in our leadership. We've got to do things that we would rather not do because the outcome is worth it. So let's talk about having a difficult conversation. By the way, we're going to do an activity in a minute, and it could have some sensitivity around it, but I want you to start to think about, is there a difficult conversation in real life that I know that I need to have? Just by show of hands, who is sitting there thinking, I know that I need to have a difficult conversation? It's about half the hands in the room, okay? And for the rest of you, I don't think you're thinking hard enough, because you probably do. And I know you don't know what you don't know, but I want you, as we're going through this, I want you to think about the next time I need to have a difficult conversation, maybe I can apply this methodology. So, I'm going to put this up as a bit of a reminder to the steps. So the first step into planning for and having a difficult conversation is for you to ask yourself this question. And again, this is in your handout. Does the person in question fully understand my expectations? Do they know what the issue is? Now, this changes the nature of a difficult conversation. If the answer to this is no, if the person in question doesn't know what you expect from them, how can you blame them for not performing to the standard that you want? Does that make sense? So this puts the responsibility back on the leader. And in my book, one of the road rules for leadership is to have clear expectations. And I almost use this as a little mantra. I say to all of my clients when they share their problems and issues with me, do they clearly understand your expectations? Because quite frankly, I know it's a big statement, but when you are certain that you have been crystal clear about what you expect from people, most of your problems disappear. Is that a big statement? Yes, I know it is. But years and decades of experience tell me when you go to the trouble of being really clear in your mind what I need from my people, both in terms of performance and behaviours and values and attitudes. If I've been really, really clear about what my expectations are, most of your problems and issues will disappear. But we're in a case where, does the person fully understand my expectations? If that's the case, it's a different kind of conversation, because if they don't understand your expectations, it's a simple fix. And I'll just role play this a little bit. Let's just say that you've got someone in your team that's not performing to your expectation. It might go like this. You might sit them down and say, hey, listen, we need to have a chat about a couple of things. I've realised that it's my responsibility that I haven't been crystal clear with my expectations of your behaviour and your performance. And I apologise to you for that, because it's really my responsibility to be super clear about what I need from you. So here are my expectations. So you simply have a conversation around that. Does that make sense? Can everyone see themselves having that kind of a conversation? Now, to me, that's not real difficult. To me, that's a responsibility of leadership. You must make your expectations of your people crystal clear. Now, we'll go forward on the basis of people do understand your expectations. Do they know what the specific issue is? So we've got to say yes. But that first one, if we can avoid that from happening, where people are unclear, most of your problems and issues disappear. I know it's a big statement, but I firmly believe it. The second step is what is the result that I want from this conversation? And by the way, guys, I just want to reiterate, this is a methodology around planning for and having a difficult conversation. So we actually haven't sat down with anyone just yet. This is in the preparation work that we do. What is the result that I want from this conversation? So be specific. Be very, very clear about what you want from that individual conversation. And you might even point that out. You might even write that down. But be very specific and be very clear about the result that you want from the conversation. The third step is an important one, and it's empathy. And empathy is a really, really important leadership trait. Who can tell me the difference between sympathy and empathy? Yeah, that's pretty good. Sympathy is feeling sorry for someone. Empathy is feeling what they feel. And it's a really, really important leadership trait. And there are some leaders, and you probably have had experience with them, where they don't have any empathy. They don't really know how they make people feel. There's a beautiful quote by Maya Angelou, who says, people won't remember what you said, they'll remember how you made them feel. Okay, and it's true of leadership. It's not so much what we say to people, but it's how we make them feel. So where we have empathy, and we use it in this context. So you've got to ask yourself, how is the person likely to receive this news that I'm giving them? So, and we use emotional intelligence, which is another really important part of leadership. We use our knowledge of the person in question, and we think to themselves, okay, so what is the likely response that I'll get when I sit down and have this conversation and share with them these details or these news? This is important for the following reason. I want you to go back up to number 2 and think, what is the result that I wanted? I want to be focused on that result. Now, point 3 there means that, in my view, you've got a responsibility to change what you say, how you say it, the tone of what you say, and possibly where you say it, to try and increase the likelihood of getting the result that you wanted. Now, I've had people in the past say to me, it sounds like a lot of hard work. And by the way, why am I the one changing? They're the one not performing. And I go back up, right up to the context that I first gave you. This is about us becoming better leaders. And in my leadership development model, authenticity is really important. So if we're authentic and genuine in our leadership, we want that right result. So I think it's incumbent upon you, you have a responsibility to be able to say, I'm going to change what I say. I might change the words, I might change the order, I might change the tone, I might change where I have the conversation so that I'm increasing the chances of getting that right result. And again, it might sound like hard work, and it might sound like it's going to take some time, but it's worth it. Now, I just want to clarify, this is not about letting people off the hook. Not at all. This is about trying to increase your likelihood of getting the right result. Number 4 is plan for the conversation. There's a couple of components to this. I've already said a couple of times, planning for and having a difficult conversation. So I actually recommend, depending on the importance of the outcome, that you actually take some time to sit down and dot point this out. And I actually advocate to people, jot down what you're going to say in the order that you're going to say it. Maybe even practice it. Maybe even role play it if there's a third party that you can trust in terms of confidentiality and privacy. Particularly if that third party knows the person and they might be able to give you some insights into how they'll react. You've got to be really cautious about sensitivity, privacy and confidentiality in that case. The last step is to just do it, to be positive and firm. And I add to this, most difficult conversations should be no longer than 10 to 15 minutes. And a lot of people say to me, you know what, I start having this conversation and I go down rabbit holes and we end up talking about other stuff and I end up getting distracted and then they get emotional and then I'm thinking about, how do I support them and how do I make sure that they're not upset, and then we get to the end of it, it's an hour and a half's gone by and we actually haven't achieved anything. So where I've got there, be positive and firm, I think that we should be focused on getting in and out quickly. Now, what do you reckon will happen if your people start to see you having more and more difficult conversations? Maybe with them, but also they see you having difficult conversations with others. What do you reckon is going to happen? They'll shape up? Yeah. So the culture will improve because people know, same thing, shape up, culture will improve. People will know that, I'm going to get called out on this. So I'm actually not going to do it. Those of you who put your hands up about having kids before, leadership and parenting are almost exactly the same. If you say you're going to do something with your kids and you don't follow through, they say, Dad's bluffing, so I might as well keep getting away with it. But if you've got a culture in your team of where expectations aren't met, that you will call them on it. And this doesn't necessarily have to be aggressive or scary or anything. I was in a similar group just a couple of weeks ago, and it was a government department, not that there's anything wrong with that, but they kept thinking that this was about really, really, really poor performance, almost performance management stuff. And I've gone, no, not at all. You might find yourself having difficult conversations almost on a daily basis. I think when I call it a difficult conversation, people jump to the really bad negative ones, and I don't mean that at all. So what I want you to do is turn to the person next to you, and we're probably only going to have 5 minutes to do this. So what you might do is, rather than take turns, it could be if one person, particularly if one person has a live difficult conversation they need to have, I want you to just talk about this and maybe dot point it out. I've got there, identify a potential. Okay, so I don't think we want to share the actual details of the conversation, but so use some generalities around it. Certainly respect confidentiality and privacy. So in this conversation that you're just about to have, don't mention any names. Don't identify the person. If you three work for the one organisation, okay, so if that's the case, you might want to jump on another table and have a safer conversation. I want you to make some dot points about the conversation and possibly even role play the conversation. We're only going to have about 5 minutes to do this because we're pretty time poor today. But I just want you to get used to using that framework and that methodology as a way to plan out that conversation. I'll make my way around the tables, and if anyone has any questions, please let me know. About 5 minutes, a bit of thinking music, please, Megan. So guys, I'd like to spend more time letting you flesh that out, but time is against us. So I'm really keen to hear from people that had an aha moment, or listen up guys, or potentially a little bit of a breakthrough. Jerome, let's kick off with a question that you just asked.
My one was, the first question is, does the person fully understand the expectations? So would you send an email, would you send a text before the conversation, or are you talking about stating that right at the beginning of the conversation?
So it's horses for courses about, do you give people a heads up about what the conversation is about? But I'd go way back before that, and I don't know what's going on in an organisation if someone works for you and they don't know what you expect from them in that role. So in that case, it could be that that's how you start the conversation. And in fact, I was talking to this table here, and I think a really disarming and safe way to have a conversation like this, particularly if it's the first one, is to say, you know what, I possibly have let you down on this. This is on me. I haven't been really, really clear about what I need from you. So I want the next 15 minutes to be, or it might even be longer if you're talking about them for the first time, but I feel like I might have let you down in that I haven't been really clear about what I expect from you. But at the end of that, they will be clear and you'll get agreement about it, right? And then if it happens again, you've then got a different conversation. If I can just address Jerome's point about do I give people a heads up about it, it's horses for courses. I ran an in-house corporate leadership development program for a national publicly listed transport company a couple of years ago. And when I actually said to them, I think it's a good idea to book a time. So say to, Macca, hey Macca, are you around tomorrow? Yeah. Can you drop by my office about 10:30? We just need to have a chat. To give Macca a bit of a heads up that you're having a chat. This company told me if they did that, there'd be a union rep in the meeting because you're having a formal chat. And I've gone, what, just to have an informal chat? And they said, yeah, absolutely. There will be I think it was, I can't remember what unit, CFMEU. And all of a sudden that goes to another level. So that's why I say it's horses for courses. It's not a cookie cutter approach. However, booking a time with someone, if you book a time with someone, what are they going to think? When they walk away, they go, what's this about? Actually, I know what this is about. Other people have said to me, no, you want the element of surprise. And I go, it's really up to you, but it should be about rule number 2, about what's the result you want. Yep. Yeah, so a better way might be to say, hey, listen, it's nothing to worry about. I just want to be really clear about our expectations around that issue. And that might actually help. They might walk away going, oh yeah. So that could work. I think the key is, when you said I struggle to not tell them then, the key is to be prepared. So there's a fair bit of planning in this. Right? And so don't do it off the cuff anymore. It might be that you've done it off the cuff in the past because I've got to do it now because it's getting worse. I want this to be a proactive habit. Yep, who was next?
I think Karen will probably have more detail and problems, but it seems nowadays when you want to have a conversation with someone, you've got to give a letter, 24 hours notice, and the offer of a support person.
Yeah, 100%. Which is why that government department the other day, they just kept swinging to, oh no, this is performance management. I go, no, this is about preventing performance management issues. If you're all over this from the beginning, if you're nipping stuff in the bud as it's happening, if you're sending a message to people, hey, listen, this is the expectation that I have, and they know that if they don't meet it, there's going to be a chat, likelihood is they'll lift. So this is very much a preventative strategy.
And I really think if you get really good at this, you'll hardly ever get to the point of having to do formal management.
That's the intention. The gig I'm talking to you about, I was on day 2. Day 1 were the dry old HR people talking to them about here's how you have a performance management. Here's how you put a performance management plan in. And I sat in on half the day and people were falling asleep because it was like process and protocol and all of the things that you just said, you've got to have a support person. And I got there on day 2 and I said, guys, I want to put them out of business. I don't want those HR guys to have any role to play anymore. I want us as leaders to lift the performance of people, for us to be authentic leaders, to talk to people about our expectations. We owe it to them to make our expectations clear and then give them feedback, both positive and negative, but do it frequently and honestly. Does that make sense? If we do that, the performance management stuff, in an ideal world, will disappear or there'll be less of it.
I've been that HR person in a government organisation for lots and lots of
Ain't it fun? Yeah. Woohoo! Yeah. 100%. 100%. Look, I'll finish off with repeating one of my mantras before. Strong leaders do things every day they wish they didn't have to do. I don't want to have a difficult conversation, but I make the choice that the outcome of me having sort of 10 minutes of discomfort is far more important than not. Weak leaders put things off, cut corners and let things get worse, and I want you to be a strong, authentic leader. I know we haven't spent much time on that, but we've got to keep going because I want to talk to you about this next really important one. I thought I was going to finish off, but I'll just remember this. I don't know how important authenticity is. Sometimes people say to me, of the 5 foundation competencies of your leadership development model, which one's the most important? And it's almost like picking a favourite child. You can't. But I do know in leadership without authenticity, you haven't got a chance. If you are not authentic in your leadership, you do not have a chance. So you've got to strive to be authentic. So let me talk to you about this bloke is a client of mine. His name is Jim. All of his crew call him Jimbo. He's about 6'3", about 130 kilos, big, larrikin, buffy bloke, typical Aussie. He's a team leader in a commercial air conditioning company. And they work on unit blocks in Sydney. So there's a real time pressure for them to get in and get out, and they've got to do floor after floor after floor after floor. And if they don't deliver on time, all of the other trades coming behind them are slowed down, and there's damages and all that sort of stuff. So every morning, Jim gets his crew together, and they do a toolbox talk, which is not uncommon, but the toolbox talk's not just about safety and whatever's going on in the business. The toolbox talk is about his expectations of them today. You might see the little RNE on the side of his hat. It stands for this: results, not excuses. And at the end of his little toolbox talk, he taps his head and he says, and remember, guys, results, not excuses. And they have a bit of a laugh because he does it every time. And I'll give you an example. So, for instance, and this happened once. Jim told me about it. His crew went off into a certain part of the floor that they were doing. And at the end of the day, they got back together to find out where they were at. And the guys hadn't done what they were expected to do. And Jim said, what happened? And the guy says, the gear didn't turn up. He said, what do you mean the gear didn't turn up? He said, well, Reese was supposed to drop off the copper. That didn't turn up. We couldn't do the job without the copper. And Jim goes, which bit about results, not excuses, didn't you get? And the guy goes, it's not my fault the gear didn't turn up. But he said, no, but you've given me an excuse, and what you should have done was come to me and say, when it happened, the gear hasn't turned up, we can't do anything. Instead, 6 hours have gone by, and now you're telling me you haven't done it, and we're in trouble tomorrow. So all Jim did was to say, don't give me excuses, give me results. Do what you say you're going to do. And my expectations are clear. Now, the reason I'm telling you this story, I don't think there's anyone in this room that couldn't achieve that with your team. Does that make sense? If you make your expectations of everyone clear, if you say to them, and he uses a little mantra, results, not excuses, but he also talks to them about this say-do ratio that I'm going to talk to you about right now. There's no one in this room that couldn't adopt this simple little procedure about increasing trust and reliability in their teams. You might have heard of this book called The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey. Basically, he says things happen fast when there's trust in a team. And if you're in a team where people don't trust each other, you'll know that things happen slow or they don't happen at all. So we've got to strive to increase trust, and I think someone came up with that as part of a leadership trait before. Trust is absolutely important, and this rule in the Road Rules for Leadership is about doing what you say you're going to do. It's super important, and it comes under the banner of authenticity. If we're going to be authentic leaders, we need to do what we say we're going to do. So the say-do ratio is really, really simple. I want you to think about the number of times that you commit to something. Let's call that 10. So on 10 occasions, you say to people in your team, or you might say to your supervisor, or you might say to people that report to you, you might say, I'm going to do that. So you give a commitment or a promise or you agree to do something. So let's call that 10. Now think of the times that you deliver on that. Let's call that 6. So your say-do ratio is 0.6. Okay? One divided by the other is 0.6. That's your say-do ratio. What we've got to do as authentic leaders is we've got to strive to get that say-do ratio as close to 1 as we possibly can. Now, it's probably impossible to get a say-do ratio of 1, meaning every single commitment I make, I keep. And that's possibly because sometimes things are out of our control, right? Sometimes we don't have control over everything. But as authentic leaders, this is a really, really powerful concept, particularly when you go back to your teams on Monday or whenever that is, and you write out say-do ratio on your whiteboard, and you explain to them in as simple as terms as I'm explaining to you now. And you've got to go, you know what, we will be better off as a team and as a group and as leaders if we strive to increase this say-do ratio. Yes.
How do you factor in cultural differences on these systems? Because in a lot of cultures, other than Australian culture, it is very common to say yes but do no. So, how do you deal with that?
Are you talking about people from other cultures who are now here in Australia working in your team?
I'm international, so I work with a lot of people in India, in Singapore,
Okay.
etc. So where in Asian culture it's very normal to say yes,
Yes.
but mean no.
Yes.
It's from an Australian perspective.
Yes. And it's a bit frustrating, isn't it? I had a VA in the Philippines, and I would often give her a task, and I would be very, very thorough about what I wanted her to do and when I wanted it done by, and then I would say, so is everything okay? Yep, fully understand. It's good. So you got capability to do it? Yep. You know the timeline? Yep, all good. And then the deadline would pass, and I'd go back and she'd say to me, I didn't really understand what you said. And I'd be frustrated, right? So I don't have a magic wand to solve all of those problems. But what I can say, it goes back, and it's just a little mantra, make your expectations crystal clear. I don't think I have a solution for national cultures of other countries, but I've got a solution for your team and maybe the people that work in that team, and that is be really, really clear about what the expectations are and have conversations about say-do ratio. Now, I'm not experienced with working, other than the example that I just gave you, I'm not really experienced with working with teams, if you've got teams. Steve? Look, I know it sounds a bit lame, and I know I trot it out, and if I don't say it 50 times a day, it's not a normal day. Make your expectations clear, and most of your problems and issues will disappear. I do want to do a simple little activity. We'll probably just do the little bit on the back page of your handout there. Turn to the person next to you and tell them what your say-do ratio is. Just have a guess and be honest. And then secondly, what can you do to improve your say-do ratio? And by the way, here's a tip. I'm just going to tell you what it is, and then you can discuss it. Say no more often. Talk to the person next to you. What's your say-do ratio? What can you do to improve your say-do ratio? You've got about 2 minutes. Just from each table, what can you do to increase your say-do ratio? Some ideas? Yeah, so just do it. Yep. Yeah, we're going to talk about that one in a second. Yeah, that's a good one, because lots of people take on too much. And then there's just literally, and I think in a lot of cases, the intention is good, right? But the reality is there's just not enough time to do everything that we want to do. So we're going to talk about delegation in a moment, and it's an absolute key to increasing your say-do ratio, which is authenticity, but also creating time to do the leadership stuff. And that's, poor time management is the enemy of effective leadership. So when we can delegate stuff, we get it off our plate, we've got more time to lead. A couple of other ideas. What else can you do in order to increase your say-do ratio? Yes. commit to less things, which, you know, in other words, say no more often. Okay? I know that's a tough one. I'll just talk about it for a second. There's a couple of things you can do. If you want to be authentic, and we do, right, particularly as leaders, if someone says to you, "Can you do this for me?" and you want to be liked, so you kind of feel like you've got to say no, and it might even be your job, so you better say yes. All right, but if you say yes and you know you can't do it, your authenticity goes out the window because you're going to let them down. So I guess we could call it being assertive, but one of the things that we've got to do is we've got to find a way, if we can't possibly do it, we've got to find a way to say no. And there's a couple of different ways we can do that. One way is this. Let's just say your boss comes to you and says, "I need you to do this and I need it by tomorrow afternoon." You go, whoa, hang on a minute. As you know, I've already got this, and this on. Which one of those do you want me to drop in order to do the one you just gave me? And they might go, "Actually, that's not a priority more. I forgot to tell you." And you go, "Oh, good. I can drop that and now I can commit." So it's about pushing back. The other one is if someone says to you, "I need that done and I need it by tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock. You go, "That's not going to happen, but I can have it to you by Monday 10. And they go, "Yeah, that's fine." So it's about you. Sounds like something's resonating down here. It's about you being authentic in pushing back. And this isn't about you being lazy. That's not what I'm talking about. It isn't about you doing the right thing. It's about if you know you can't be authentic and deliver, don't make the promise. Does that make sense? Anyone got... Steve, what's your say-do ratio? Is that true? The people that work with Steve? Some heads nodding. Good. You're an authentic leader, Steve. And we should strive for that. Guys, I can't tell you how important... these things are just little. This one's a big one. But these things are just little, but they really add up to your authenticity as a leader. Incredibly powerful. I'm going to have to move on to our last one. So there is another... there's another handout on your table, and the title is Becoming Better Leaders, Crest Delegation. Everyone take that out for me. So finish this sentence for me. By the time I show someone how to do it, I could have done it myself. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why we don't delegate. That's one of them. But who's heard of the saying, if you give someone a fish, you feed them for a day. If you teach them how to fish, you feed them for life, right? So it's the same thing with delegation. You might be able to do it quicker, and you might be able to do it faster than how long it takes you to show someone how to do it. But here's the thing, if you show them how to do it, it's gone for good where it should be. And it might take you 2 or 3 times to help them understand what it is that you need done. Here's the other thing with delegation. We've talked about the role of a leader being someone that grows and develops others to make others better. So one of the things that effective delegation does is give people opportunities to step up and take extra responsibility. I've already talked to you about the importance of time management and getting stuff off your plate. But the bonus is when you effectively delegate to people, and you might say something, and I'm not talking about being disingenuous or inauthentic here, but when you say to someone, "Hey, listen, this is a job that I've always done. It's a really important job in this organisation, but I actually think you're up for it. And I want to hand it over to you, but I'm going to support you and trust you to do it." In a lot of cases, people go, "Really? I can do this from here on in? Awesome." Now, that may not be the result that you always get, because they might just go, another task. All right? But it's a great way to ensure that you are giving other people opportunities to step up at the same time getting stuff off your plate. I want you to buy my book, but I also want you to buy this book. Has anyone ever heard of Essentialism by Greg McKeown? There's a few hands. This is an absolute game changer, and I haven't asked you to write anything down today, but I want you to write this down. Essentialism by Greg McKeown. Would you agree that it's a game changer, Danielle? It is so I came across it about 3 years ago as an audio book, and I've listened to it probably 4 or 5 times now. Whenever I'm in the car, I'm listening to audiobooks. So I'm listening to this over and over and over again. And in the book, Greg McEwen talks about a whole bunch of things, but one of the most powerful concepts, he says, he needs you, each one of us, to be focused on our highest value contribution to the organisation. Not a low value, not a medium value, but what is your highest value contribution to your organisation? Now, I work with supervisors, team leaders, CEOs, managing directors, the whole bit, and there's not one of them, and I'm almost prepared to say I bet there's no one in this room. Everyone in this room will be doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing. And therefore, you are not making your highest value contribution to your organisation, which to me is a compelling reason why you should be starting to delegate stuff to other people. Not the least creating time for you to lead, not the least giving you other people opportunities to step up and take responsibility. It's a fantastic book. I haven't got shares in Audible, but I probably should. Audible is an app that you buy audiobooks from. You can join it for free and get a free download, right? So you can join it, you can download Essentialism for free, right? And then cancel your subscription and you've still got Essentialism for free, right? You get 2 free at the moment. They often have specials, right? So you can get this today or tonight for free, and you'll be thanking me for it. It's an absolute game changer. I want to again. I love frameworks, and I love sort of colour by numbers ways of improving our leadership. And this is another one. You've got the handout in front of you. It's called CREST Delegation. If you look at, I haven't got page 1 and 2, but step 1 is for you to, and we're not going to do this now, we're not going to have time, and some of you already jumped ahead and do it, which is good. Step 1 says, what can I pass on? So on this template here, and by the way, I'm happy to email this, the soft copy to you so that you can give it to your people and so that you've got other copies for you to use. Just let me know if you want me to do that. Step 1 is what can I pass on? List the tasks that currently take up most of your time. Determines which ones that only you can do. There's no one else in the organisation that can do that task. And then you determine which ones you're going to pass on to someone else. Down the bottom there, and I've only got space for 3, but it's a good start. 1 might be a good start. 3 would be a fantastic start. What tasks am I going to delegate? And then to who and when am I going to delegate them? Flip it over. And this is a little preparation template for you. And you do this before you actually sit down with the person that you're going to delegate to. And this is you getting your head around the conversation that you're going to have with the people that you delegate the task to. So again, this is preparation. Right? So, step 2, when delegating a task to someone, use the CREST method to achieve best results. What is the task to be delegated, and who is the task to be delegated to? The first step, the C in CREST, is context. Shara up the back talked about why. So what you will do is to say to someone, why is this task important? What is this task about, and why is this task important? Often when we delegate stuff, we bark orders at people, we walk off, they often say, I've got no idea what I'm supposed to do and I really don't know what this is about. But Simon Sinek told us to start with why. Shah reinforced that on a number of occasions today. Context or why is really important. If you have a task that's important enough to delegate, you start with saying to people, here's what this task is about and here's why it is important. All you need to do on that template is 2 or 3 dot points. And they are for you to remember when you have the delegation conversation with someone, you give them the big picture. This is why it's important. The R in CREST is result. So what does success look like? So again, you need to be really specific. You know, we talk about SMART goals. We need to be really specific about what success looks like. In Steve's case with his son, success looks like there's no more grass on the driveway. Is that right, Steve? So, don't go through sort of half-assed and I've done it, Dad, and you look back and you go, there's grass everywhere. No. Success is when there's no more grass. So be really specific about what success looks like. 3 is inquiry, and that is you need to say to the person you're delegating to, I'm really happy to provide any other background information or answer any other questions that you need in order to do this task. Now again, that sounds like hard work, but we're doing this for a reason. We're not doing this because it's quick, we're doing this because we want the right result. S is support. So what other support will I give? So you might say to someone, particularly if it's a challenging task or an important task, you might say, listen, I'm happy to catch up with you once a week to see how you're going with it so that you're on track, and in that half hour or in that 15 minutes that we catch up, we can go over whatever you want me to go over. So you're increasing the chances of success. What support will I give you? And the last one is simply time frame. When do you need to get it done by? It's incredibly simple. There are other delegation methodologies similar to that one, and they're good. And if you use another one, but guys, this is a classic case of planning. It means that this is going to discipline you to get it clear in your head about what you need, and then you simply get on and do that. So, has anyone got any questions about that? Because I'm mindful of leaving a little bit of time for everything that we've done to sink in a little bit. Has anyone got anything similar to that you use? So if you're not using that or something similar to that, what are you using? Is anyone delegating in the room? Some, yeah, they are. That's good. That's good. It's a really, really important leadership trait. So I'm big on frameworks. I'm big on colour by numbers. I'm big on templates because they hold us to account and they make things easy. So
what if your why, right at the beginning, your why is not important to them? I'm thinking about my son being up, making his bed in the morning, but I'm just thinking that same sort of problem could be
yeah.
anywhere else.
Oh look, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Oh look, sitting down with your son and saying, hey mate, if I'm happy, life's good, right? I don't want to keep hassling you, so all you got to do, mate, 2 minutes of a morning, pull the sheet up, put the blanket up, put the pillow there, make sure, and mate, I'm happy. And if you do that, there might be a reward for you. So I don't know, I got 4 kids and I'm not perfect by a long shot, and it's one of the most challenging leadership roles ever, right, to get the best out of your kids. But let's take that question and put it into an organisational context. If all of this stuff works when people want to play nice. If they don't want to play nice, meaning they don't want to be there, they're disengaged, their care factor is 0, none of this stuff will work. And your problems are much bigger than what I've talked about today. This is where people are engaged or they're semi-engaged. But I mean, you put yourself in the situation of someone who may work in your team, or you've identified them as a keeper and someone you want to see grow. You sit down with them and the context is, hey, listen, this is why this role is important, or this is why this task is important. I've been doing it for 4 years and I'm good at it, but I've now got bigger fish to fry, but you're ready for this. I would imagine that in most cases, people's chests might puff out a little bit and they might feel a bit more confident in themselves because you've felt confident in them. Does that make sense to you? I can't help you with your kid in the messy bed though. By the way, if that's your biggest problem, you're going all right. Mike? Nice one.
I know you're not laughing. I know you're laughing with me. We're laughing with you.
So, guys, time's against us again, and I just want to check in. Shah, how many slides did you use again today? None? So, does anyone want to have a guess at how many I just ran through in 2.5 hours? 118. True story, right? So, I've taken the risk today of what they call fire hosing you with content. All right, I literally talk about any one of these all day. I can run full day sessions about any one of these, and of course we dive deeper and we use examples and stories, and I get you to do activities. And I really wanted to focus on my highest value contribution today. And so what I want you to do for the next couple of minutes, and we certainly don't want to gloss over this, I want you to have a look at the bottom of page 4 of the bigger handout, the multiple page handout. And I want you to think about the territory that we've covered. I think I gave you some compelling reasons about why we should become better leaders, because our organisations are going to achieve better results, but importantly we're going to have a better culture and better engagement, but also we're going to become better people. And I think that's really important to focus on. I then think we went to some of my philosophy on leadership, and that, leadership is positive influence. And if we're not positively influencing people, we're not really leading. I then think we went to managing and leading. And again, I hope I challenged you and confronted you in a nice way about what you're doing. And I saw evidenced on that activity that many of you want to change. Many of you want a better outcome from your leadership. Pardon me, even if the ratios don't change that much. I think almost everyone said, I want a bigger ratio on leading than managing. Okay, but even if you didn't, it's the quality of the leadership that's the most important thing. I guess I then shared one of my favourite quotes with you, and that is by John Quincy Adams about, we're not really leading unless we're helping people become better. And that we manage things, but we lead people. So there's 118 slides in that 2.5 hours, and the risk is I've fire hosed you, which means you're drenched with content, but we've got to make sense out of this. So for the next 5 minutes, I want you to look at the bottom of page 4, and I want you to write down the 3 most important things that came out of my sessions. And it could be something big and philosophical, or it might be something simple and practical, I don't care. But I really want you to walk away with, if someone says to you, what did you get from Greg? I want you to be able to go, I got this, this and this. So I want you to spend just a couple of minutes now. What are the top 3 things that you got out of that last 2.5 hours? Some thinking music, please, Megan. So, Steve, we'll start with you. What's one thing you got out of those sessions?
I love this topic, Greg, and you've done such an amazing job. One of the things that I remember is you're talking, I wasn't actually doing the exercise, but actually I'll tell you, mate. The Essential is a book by Greg McKeown. What can help you become a better leader? So the questions, just that always prodding and probing to think, what is it that can make you better? Because no one's amazing. So constantly challenging yourself to think about and assess, how can I be better?
Yep. So I just want top thing from everyone before we go. So the gentleman sitting next to you, Steve. Has that helped today? Good. Preparation's really important for this stuff. This table here. You'll all get a turn. Yep. Yep. Allowing you to. Yes. Why are you doing other stuff then? because it's comfortable, because you like it, because you've always done it, because no one else will do it as good as you. Sure. 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 Highest value contribution, being focused on that. Good. The other people at your table. Yep.
Oh yeah, so I think my takeaway was around communication, making those expectations crystal clear, and also by, I guess, making them just as clear by using this delegation.
Good. Yep. Good. Yep. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And so this goes to you, but to everyone else. Have conversations around this stuff. If something resonated with you, take it back to your workplace and have conversations. I often say that all leadership development is having a series of conversations. That's all it is. So any of this stuff, hopefully I've kept it simple enough for you to go and talk to your people about doing it. Patrick.
What I got out of today most was just a bit more of a realisation of my role in our organisation between the manager and the leader.
Yeah, good.
To be a match between the two.
Yeah, Patrick and I had a chat in the break, and it's very clear to me. In my book, there are 3 things we've got to get right in an organisation for it to be successful: structure, strategy, and culture. His organisation's smashing structure and smashing strategy. It's the cultural piece that's the real challenge for you. Yep.
Probably the big thing is to be more intentional with my leadership.
Good.
Too much I'm relying on my natural talent and just inertia.
And just going back to something Patrick said, he said, I don't wake up of a morning, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but I don't wake up in the morning thinking I'm going to be a leader today. And I've gone, you've got to start doing that. You've got to start saying it's my responsibility to create an environment where people want to step up and take responsibility. We need more people in the world to wake up of a morning going, I want to be a leader. I want to lead others. Some of us have it naturally and other people have got to try harder. Thank you. Mark, one thing from today. Good. Not so easy, but really important. And often people will respect you more if you go, no, I can't do that by that time, but let's talk about when I can. Yep, good. Like, it's gold. I've got to tell you, it's gold. Yep. The session that I ran like this a couple of weeks ago with those 50 middle managers of a government department, about 75% of them, when I did this exercise and went round and said, what's the one thing you got from today? 75% of them said crystal clear expectations. I've gone, yes, because it will make a difference, right? Good stuff. Mossy.
More so I like the difficult conversations because I'm a massive advocate for it now because in the past, being in business so long, all the big things that happen in business have been due to I didn't have those difficult
Yeah.
conversations. So I have a lot of difficult conversations and I might say how I do it with Karen because I don't have fear of it anymore. I just
Yeah.
listening to that. I find it's better because I work with a lot of young people where I pull them aside, the two of us, just talking, and I give them the big picture and the small picture, you know, and I think I've got the skill base to
Good.
have a positive outcome. So I'm a massive advocate for it.
Great. Good stuff.
Similar to Shaz with the very clear expectations, but I won't steal that from her. So the other thing for me was kind of the distinction between management and leadership.
Yeah.
And management is kind of more of a science, whereas leadership's that evolving art form. There's also so much context, I think, within that is the difficult thing, and it is that evolving thing where even those slides that you had up before with the boss and the leader, I've had discussions with people before
maybe micromanaging. Yeah, I get that. Sure, not simple at all. Yep, thank you. Michael?
The main thing is clarifying what my role needs to be, and then thinking about how I can move to that, more in the leadership role rather than the manager, workhorse, do everything role.
Sure, thank you.
Inspire others to become more.
Yep, good stuff.
Yeah, look, probably for me was very much around that do ratio.
Yeah.
Sometimes I overcommit, so it's hard to say no to some things. But, really, I'm pretty entrepreneurial, so I get a lot of ideas, but you might do 6 out of 10 or 5 out of 10, so maybe putting a few on the shelf and just focus on getting a couple done.
100%. Thank you. Good. Jerome?
I think for great leadership, I don't think people do it enough. Self-reflection is really, really important in the mirror. I don't think people do it enough. So for me, to take out from your presentation, Greg, was being the leader you wish you had.
Yes.
We do that more often. We self-reflect. Like coming back to Mark's situation, there's a trigger that's gone on in him where his son's not stepping up, but really the challenge is in him.
Yes.
He's not stepping up. And that's what I do a lot, being a parent.
Yes.
You do that, everything raises up underneath you.
Yep. Good stuff. So thanks for sharing, everyone. Guys, we've got to wrap up. It's been my honour to serve you. I'm going to dinner tonight, so if any of you are coming to dinner, I'm really happy to continue the conversations. There's been a couple of people that have asked me stuff and we didn't have an opportunity to flesh it out, but I'd be really happy to serve you even more later on. I've got copies of my book up the back, and as I said, I don't care if you read it, I just want you to buy it. And I guess the last thing I want to leave you with is this is my mantra. We're not really leading unless we're making others better. So I really hope you can take actions based on what you've learnt today to make the world a better place on the back of helping people be better. Thank you, guys.
Big round of applause for Greg. Thank you.